right, thank you for staying with Citizen. Before we get into the National Dialogue Committee agenda, there's a conversation here from Turanira. He says a quick check on the Hustler Fund website. Over 36 billion disbursed to Kenyans. The fund was 50 billion. Reallocating 5 billion while 14 billion has not been used from the primary fund makes sense. It is called prioritization. Attempting to equate prioritization with failure is misusing the beautiful brains God gave us.
Well, I appreciate you and your beautiful brains, but the one thing that I would say for sure is let us not look at this thing from a point of where you sit and maybe you have a job. And the fact that you're quick to look at the website and you're aware of this information, people where I work might not even have that access. And I say this, and for me, equating this to failure is one thing. It's the current taxation measures that are there versus what people are receiving as Hustler Fund or Kitty or whatever it is. The second thing for me to term it as a failure is lack of strategy on who it's targeting. Because I'm sure if I picked my phone and applied for that thing, I'm going to get it. I probably don't need it, but I'm going to get it. So what was the strategy in disbursement? What is the measure they're using to say, actually, this is a success? What if I borrow the same way young people had Fuliza and Tala and all these other apps, right? And they were giving them a lot of money. Some get up to 60,000 from those apps, right? So what if it's the same thing people were doing? I borrow here to repay another loan and then repay it, borrow to repay this one, and then I'm borrowing again. What if that is the cycle? Do we term that as a success?
Okay.
Trevor.
And also, I think there's also an issue. The Turanira continues to say, looking at the trends of borrowing the Hustler Fund within 12 months, Kenyans have borrowed 36 billion. The president said 26 billion. So, but time changes. Maybe in the last 2 weeks after that, they've borrowed another billion, which is almost impractical. It is a revolving fund, plus 5 billion has been pumped in and 14 unused. Supplementary budget is for the duration before the next financial year that we set aside.
But we are barely a few months.
This is it, yeah? So they allocated 50 billion that Kenyans were supposed to partake. And they left 14 billion on the table. Why? Because the money that's been given is not enough for them to invest in whatever business they said this money would help them invest. Like Shikwa said here, she qualifies, but she may not opt to take the money. So what they need to do is to make that money more attractive to young Kenyans and to business people. The reason people are not taking that money is not because people don't need money. It's because that money is not enough for you to do anything meaningful. Yeah. People have tried to borrow the 500, the 1,000 to grow their credit score so they can get to those levels that the president was talking about.
That's not a fair assessment, Muthiora, because if the money was 50 billion and more than 26.6 billion or 30 billion, depending, the website says 36 billion, the president said 26 billion, that's more than half. So it means
Trevor, this money was not an investment fund where the government was taking 50 billion and investing it somewhere. It was supposed to be taken by Kenyans and invested into the economy. 14 billion has been left untouched, according to those figures. Those numbers keep changing. Why have Kenyans shunned away from taking that money? It's because that money is not useful to them in the way that it's been given.
No, but I think also...
I think, Trevor, the correct figure is 36 billion. And, you know, facts speak for themselves. I always say, they say in law, res ispa loquito. You know, it is important that we talk straight without going around. You know, sometimes I think the party leader is very happy when Kenyans are very idle and they're doing nothing. This fund is optional. You are not forced to take it. Those who are willing can apply. You just dial on your phone. You have a phone without any barrier. The party leader and my dear here, they have an opportunity to apply youth fund, women fund, wealth fund, even in the banks. They have logbooks, they have title deeds, they have so many things. They can apply big loans. But say for young people, the poor people at the lower cadre, our target is for those people who cannot afford 200 shillings. But they must start from somewhere. You cannot give a person 100,000 to start a business. You must first of all, give them that small money, and you see how best they can work with it and do business. That in itself will qualify them to bigger loans. Okay. And that's the progress we need. All so let us not just complain. It is a very good progress, and we can continue. Let us encourage young people, those who have already started this business, those who have not already applied, they can apply. Okay. And I think we have this mindset of opposition, where they were telling young people not to pay back. It is their right. You know, that's why even the fund itself was affected, because they were telling Kenyans there that they're not supposed to pay back. So it is their right to have that money. So let us encourage, because all of us are young, let us encourage our young people who have families, they have siblings to feed, they have parents, they have wives, and so many other people to feed. Let us encourage them. At this hard economic times, they can start business and prosper.
Okay, so let's move away from the hustler fund.
But I have to say something before we move away, kindly. I'm just looking at this, and I'm going to say to you, my dear brother, that when you argue that the failure is due to the opposition and whatever they say, it is wrong. That tells us completely that your government does not have an idea of what they're doing if they will keep pinning their failure on
just saying
someone
those who have failed.
They have the government, they have all the tools of power, they have all the resources, and they're the bearers of the budget. And they're also the people taxing us higher so that they get more money, which they're not going to get because they have to pay debts. Thank you.
Okay. No, let me just one thing. I think the point that my brother Mulo was trying to put across was, you know, when the Hustler Fund was introduced, even before anyone accessed the Hustler Fund, there was a narrative that was going around that, we, chukweni hiyo pesa ni yenu, mtumie. And there's so many people who rushed and took the money without even having proper plan on how to invest. That was what he's talking about, that sometimes and many times we take even things that should be able to help Kenyans and use it to score cards politically.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's end this conversation now. There's a lot of feedback coming through. Let's read that first, and then we can talk about the National Dialogue Committee report. It's coming up. It's speculation. Is it the silver bullet to most of our problems? We'd like to hear from the young people here. Let's bring up the feedback and see what you're saying at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Hashtag Daybreak. You say, ask Billion and Omulo to call a random number of a Kenyan and ask his or her limit. You'll get it stuck at 500. That fund was like an handout. There was no clear disbursement framework, and 3/4 of borrowers never repaid. The figures are lies. Okay. Daru says, Hustler Fund is something else disguised as a means to support the hustlers. Out of the cash 500 savings, which after some time, savings are deducted, which is questionable. Fuliza in the long run is better. Okay. Engineer Razao says, Mr. Omulo Jr., you can't grow an economy by raising taxes. Charging citizens normal government services is a sign of desperation. Investors leaving this nation in large numbers. Please, patriotic citizens, to advise president. Okay. Bobo Tieno says, my Hustlers Fund limit was 500 shillings. The more I borrowed and I paid in time, it grew to 5,000 shillings. And now I can't borrow below it. They want me to borrow over 5,000, where I am not comfortable with at the moment. Can Billion explain why?
I don't want.
Okelo Mwalimu now is saying he doesn't work for Hustler Fund. Okelo Mwalimu, Kenya Kwanza regime shouldn't join the same hustlers whose lives they are dismantled through in mourning. They shouldn't tell us that they know our sufferings, since that's the springboard through which they sprang to the office. Our sufferings don't need binoculars. We need solutions. Okay? Hagai says, just to correct the lady who has just said that President said there is someone who borrowed 800,000 Hustler Fund, she got it wrong. The President said there is someone who has saved 800,000 voluntarily on the Hustler Fund platform. Okay. Felix says, eggs, smokies, chapatis, and Madondo eatery joints and other small-scale vendors are heavily taxed by Kanjo at all levels. The paradox is in lack of consideration for the consumer, who is ever overburdened by Ojiwa and Brian's of this Kenya Kwanza. Okay.